All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Matt. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a couple things to go over tonight about what's going on here in Michigan and nationally. So we're going to kind of keep it brief. We're going to record it and send it out to everybody, kind of an update on the lame duck in Congress and in the Michigan legislature, what's happening. Andrew, you're on the line. If you want to go ahead and give us an update on what's happening, the latest in Michigan around oral chemo.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. And good evening, everyone. And thanks for hopping on tonight. Things have been somewhat active in Michigan as we've entered into this lame duck session. And the biggest bill that we're working on is, of course, oral parity. And so the chairman of the committee for the past few weeks has been continuing to signal that he's not interested in taking up with the bill without any type of, without an amendment to it that would provide for price transparency. This is a, this is a measure that we don't support. And truthfully, at the end of the day, is really a veiled attempt by the Michigan Association of Health Plans to go ahead and kill the bill. And so, and thank you to everyone for continuing to send emails and phone calls, and telling the speaker to discharge it, and contacting your reps and back at home, because it has truly made a difference. Where now a lot of the big issues have been set aside, and now all of a sudden oral parity has kind of worked its way up the list of potential bills that could move during lame duck, and turned into an issue of interest from lawmakers, because they're hearing so much from folks at home about how this bill needs to move. And so late last night, we approached Representative Tim Kelly, who has great working relationship with our own Jenny Varner. And he had signaled before to Jenny that he was interested in being a champion for us in the House on this issue. And we approached him last night with an amendment that we feel has been done before in Ohio and West Virginia. ACS has supported those efforts, and would help kind of curb the fear that lawmakers have about the possible increase in insurance premiums because of oral parity coverage being provided. And so what the amendment would do is essentially put a premium rate increase ceiling in that would say that if oral parity has caused your premiums to go up across your whole entire benefit structure by a certain amount of percent, and it's not, some other factor, and it's proven and done, and all that work is done by an independent actuary, and the Department of Insurance and Financial Services says that that's correct through everything that's been submitted, then you can opt out of providing oral parity within your plan. And so right now that number in Ohio is set at 1%. We know that there has never been a situation where oral parity has gotten even close to that 1%, if not even halfway there. So we're really in a good spot with this amendment, but it also provides the opt-out provision or the safeguards for the health plans, and with the premium increases that we continue to hear from lawmakers saying that that's their biggest fear. If we go ahead and mandate this coverage, we know that that premiums are going to go through the roof, which from the 40 plus states that have already done this, we know that that logic is complete asinine. But they also want to make sure that insurance is affordable for everyone back in their district, and so they buy into that language because it's a real safety zone, safety blanket type of mentality where they have that. So tonight is we'll end the second week of lame duck, and there will be one more week next week. Our hope is that we're continuing to work with Chairman Leonard, with Rep. Kelly, and to get a hearing for the bill, hopefully next week Tuesday in committee. He did leave the door open today at the end of his committee, saying that they may meet again. And if they do, it'll be this issue. They'll adopt the amendment, which is a new substitute bill. They'll bring that substitute in. They'll vote on it. They'll vote on the bill, and they'll send it out of committee. And so then at that point, it's gone through its committee process. Everyone seems to be fine with it then, rather than trying to get a discharge. And then we go ahead and move it through the House and through the Senate next week, because if we do make this change, it's going to have to go back to the Senate and be concurred in. But I don't see any hurdles in the Senate, because this is one of the priorities from the Senate that they've asked the House. They've asked the House to act on and send back. So, if we would have talked on Monday, I would have told you that the hill looks awful high. But with everyone's work this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, emails, phone calls, coming to Lansing, all those boards made a huge impact. Thank you so much. We have now somehow blown off half of the hill, and now it looks really attainable. And so we'll just keep working throughout tomorrow and probably throughout the weekend to come to a place where we can have this committee meeting on Tuesday. So stay tuned, but if you have a chance, continue to call into the Speaker's office, call into your lawmaker's office, and let them know that, hey, ACS has put an amendment out there that will work on the fears of rising premium costs, and we're still going to be able to provide protections and provide coverage for those that need it for oral chemo. So with that, I'll stop and see if anyone has any questions.
Any
Is
questions?
what you described what you meant by price transparency?
Yeah, great question, Phil. Price transparency, essentially what that legislation does is that it would require the pharmaceuticals to report to the state whatever information is put in the bill, or whatever information would be put into the bill. So they would say, what is your R&D cost for this drug? How much is it at this level? How much is it at that level? How much is it if you go through PBM? So all this different information would have to be given to the department, and then the department would have to turn around and post it on the website, or post it somewhere where the public could see it. If you look online, you can find a lot of this information online already, and so really it's really just a veiled attempt to say, we're going to go ahead and by the health plans to put all this other requirements on for pharmaceuticals, because they're the bad guys in this situation, and force them to do more work. And then the pharmaceuticals will come back and try everything they can do to try to kill the bill if that information gets put on there.
So if we agreed to price transparency, which by itself doesn't sound like it makes any difference to us, it's going to be an excuse, though, for them to argue against the bill.
Yep. So then we're back at square one.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right. Well, was there a question out there? I hear none. All right. Well, first off, I can't reiterate enough what Andrew said, that actually starting a week ago, we started contacting Cotter and emails and phone calls, and then this week, all the emails and phone calls, and those people that came to Lansing and met with lawmakers really created a buzz. We had all the boards in the rotunda, and upstairs we got multiple media hits, and then having those folks go down and pull lawmakers off. And just so you know, everybody that came to Lansing talked to their state representative. We pulled every one of them out. They all got to talk to them. And to send them back in and say, go talk to Speaker Cotter, because that's what we asked them. Don't ask them to support it or oppose the bill. Ask them to go back in that chamber and be our advocate. Talk to their colleagues, talk to the speaker, ask them why isn't this bill moving, ask for a vote, and they did. Those people went back in, they were asking questions, and that's exactly what we wanted. We just wanted them to go back in that chamber and start talking about oral chemo. And they did. It created a buzz. We started hearing the same things come out of the chamber, so we knew that the representatives were talking about it, and it really has changed the game for us this week. And although there's still a mountain to climb, like Andrew said, we did knock it down quite a bit with our work this week, and we're just going to keep it up and be ready to go. So the next steps moving forward, Andrew and I and our media person and our regional person are going to meet tomorrow to kind of lay out what our next steps are for next week. I'll be emailing this recording out to everybody, ambassadors and ACT leads, and with some steps of what we're going to do next. And guaranteed you're going to be hearing from me next week, probably starting Monday. We need to start up and kick those calls in. We'll have 4 days. We'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and really Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 3 days to hammer them with calls and emails and make sure those reps are still talking about it and know people care about this issue. And ultimately, that is probably what will move it or not. So we're going to keep you informed as we go along, but next week it's all or nothing, and we're all in on this. We're doing everything we can possibly think of, including our little impromptu lobby day this week. So we're going to work hard, and we just ask you when we get those emails or whatever, shoot an email out, make a call on Monday, call on Tuesday, call on Wednesday. I am absolutely serious. It's to the point where we just need to constantly barrage them with calls. You will not be the only one calling your rep or Speaker Cotter. He received hundreds of calls this week. So we need to just keep it up for one more week. Because we're really working hard to try to pass this. So with that, I'm going to move just quickly because there's a lot of action on the federal level right now too before they end their session that I want to talk about. And the first thing right off the bat is 21st Century Cures Act, which passed the House and it passed the Senate, kind of a different version than was out there earlier in the year. But just so you know, that bill does put the billions of dollars we've been working towards into cancer research, funding the Cancer Moonshot Initiative for cancer research. And it's really important. Now, that's not completely done. It authorizes Congress to put that money into the budget. Now they need to put the money into the budget. And the House today just passed a continuing resolution which funds the federal government through April of next year. But the bill maintains the funding levels for that we have right now with a nominal increase across the board. But most notably, it includes fiscal year 2017 funding for the 21st Century Cures Act, which includes the $352 million and the Cures funding that we need so that they can start that work. So that's very important. So now that budget moves over to the Senate, where there could be a vote as early as tomorrow on that. So we'll keep you up to date on that. You'll see the emails coming out nationally from that, but we're getting really close to a very big victory on research for the 21st Century Cures right now. And with basically people not knowing come January with the makeup of Congress and a new president where things are going to go, it's really imperative that we win this one now. Bank that money and move on next year. So that's happening right now. You've seen the alerts that have gone out asking your lawmakers, asking you to contact your lawmakers on that. If If you get those alerts, please email those Congress members too. It's very important. We have some big victories that we can see come to fruition here, so please do that. Are there any questions on 21st Century Cures or the research funding or anything like that before I move on to a couple other things? All right. One other thing I do want to mention, we did have a victory today. The STAR Act passed the House by a voice vote, which means they overwhelmingly supported it. But for those that don't know the STAR Act, and we didn't work in Michigan a lot on that, and that's because ACS CAN worked with a coalition nationally on this act, and we had targeted reps. Michigan didn't have any targeted reps for this issue, so that's why you've heard very little about it. But it is completely focused on childhood cancer, and it does a couple of things. It reauthorizes some funding around childhood cancer research. It also provides for doing some childhood cancer surveillance so they can track cancers, especially tracking the late effects of childhood cancers. It creates some expertise and some transparency. It also creates something called the compassionate use policies, and that's referring to treatment of a serious illness, so that a patient using a new unapproved drug, they can utilize that when there's no other treatment available. And so this is a big victory, and it will be completely overshadowed by 21st Century Cures if that passes. But I wanted to make you known about it, that the STAR Act passed the House, and we're staying tuned for what the next issue is on that. But it does quite a bit for childhood cancer as far as research, surveillance of it, quality of life for childhood cancer survivors, and use of new unapproved treatments when there's no treatment available. So that's a big victory in the House there today. And eventually you're going to hear about all of this as it all comes out, but we're trying to give you up to date information as we're getting it. So that's happening. The only other thing at this point that I would fill you in on, other than everything we've added, is that we are going to do our volunteer training in January. We are going to be inviting all athletes and ambassadors to this training this year. It's tentatively set for January 28th, which is Saturday, January 28th. It's going to run from roughly about 9:30, 10 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon. And we're looking to do it at the Breslin Center at Michigan State University. And so I'm hoping to lock the details down on that tomorrow or Monday. But tentatively, we're going to be at the Breslin Center on January 28th. If anything on that changes, I'll let you guys know. But look for a save the date in the next week on that we're going to send out. We're going to do a little bit more in-depth training in something we've done with our ACS staff here, a little bit more on how government works, a little activity around how government works, and then some planning of our priorities moving forward in 2017 and 2018. So definitely jot that on your calendar. Hopefully I'll have that confirmed by next week, but I wanted to give you the heads up on that. And with that, we'll also, at the end of our training that day, have potentially an optional tour of the Breslin Center. So so that's what we have planned for 2017 right now, and those are all the updates that we have as of 7:21 p.m. tonight. So please keep watching your email and making those phone calls. And if anybody has any other questions, I'll take them now. And I can't reiterate enough before we leave here how much our volunteers have done in the past 2 weeks to keep this issue of oral chemo in Michigan alive and give us a shot here at the end of possibly passing it. It's really showing the true power of grassroots advocacy. So please keep that up, and just know Andrew and I are doing our best. Andrew was out until after 10 last night working on this issue only for the most part, so at the Capitol. So we're going to keep hammering away until we can hopefully have that victory. So I want to thank everybody for your time, and we will be talking to you via email on this issue as we move forward. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.